Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto and I'm a photographer. Today I'm gonna take a photo walk with a short telephoto lens because my short telephoto skills suck. In one of my recent videos I shot on another short telephoto lens and I was struggling so much that I decided that I definitely have to practice my eye to see photos for a short telephoto. This time I have the Brightin Star 50mm F1.4 lens with me. This is an APS-C lens, so it equals to about 75mm full frame lens. A short telephoto. I think that's one of the main purpose to take a photo walk. To enjoy outdoors, because obviously if you're walking, you're probably walking outside. And another purpose is to train your eye, practice, and not every picture is going to be a masterpiece, but I don't think it matters. I think it matters that you're having fun with your camera, you're enjoying yourself and enjoying outdoors. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today. This would obviously be a perfect portrait lens, but I don't want to shoot portraits on this lens because I wouldn't have any problems there. I can shoot portraits on a short telephoto lens. I don't have any problems, but I have problems with a short telephoto when I'm, photo walking and shooting just some random things and casually snapping away. But why is it so hard to shoot on a certain lens, certain angle of view? I think the problem is pre-visualizing. If the angle of view is not familiar to you, it's so difficult to pre-visualize your shot. You can't estimate what is in the shot or what is going to be in the shot when you see the scene or the subject unless you put the camera to your eye. And I think one of the key skills to take good photos is the ability to pre-visualize even without your camera. But if you have an unfamiliar lens, pre-visualizing becomes much more difficult. For me, anything between 28 and 50 millimeters on a full frame camera is pretty easy. I can estimate or pre-visualize pretty well what is going to be in the picture. But as soon as I take a longer focal length or much wider than that, it becomes very difficult. Today I hopefully can rectify some of my short telephoto problems with this Brightin Star 50mm f1.4, and by the way, this is a brand new lens. Towards the end of the video I'm gonna share some of my thoughts on this lens too. Is it worth anything? I suppose if you mainly shoot on a zoom lens you probably don't have this problem, but at least for me a zoom lens is a little bit ambiguous. It is just from 24 to 70 or 70 to 200 or whatever, but there is no particular focal length that I could get familiar with because I can just zoom in and out any way I want. And I strongly believe, call me old-fashioned, but I strongly believe that a prime lens will make you a better photographer because it forces you to think maybe more, and it also makes your mind familiar with a certain focal length, and therefore it makes it easier for you to pre-visualize your shots and it makes you a better photographer. I think the main problem with a short telephoto for me is that it's uncomfortably narrow compared to what I'm used to. But it's also not a proper telephoto. I can't get that compressed perspective. I can't get those layers, for example, if I'm shooting landscape or something. It's something in between. It's not really a standard lens, but it's not a proper telephoto either, and that's my problem. What do you think? Please leave me a comment down below. Do you love a short telephoto for general photography, and why? So far I haven't seen any of the pictures on a big screen yet, so I can't yet say anything about the image quality of this Brightin Star 50mm f1.4 lens. After this photo walk, when I get back home, I'll share some impressions on the image quality. But I can say something about the build quality, the handling, and those kinds of things. And my impressions are that this is a pretty decent looking lens from Brightin Star. It's not exactly a tiny little lens, but then again it's f1.4. The size is about the same as a full frame 50 f1.4, maybe a little bit smaller. On the A6700 camera that I'm using today, it doesn't feel like unbalanced, too front heavy or anything. I do like the lens hood that has a locking button here, so when I mount it on, it will stay put and it will not come loose. Oops, unless I press the button and turn the lens hood. I think it's a very neat feature and should be on every lens hood. I'm struggling and I'm beginning to think that short telephoto and me are not compatible. I can fully see certain purposes for a short telephoto, like paid client work, portraits and things like that. But for general photography, it is just so uncomfortably narrow and yet not narrow enough. And I think I'm never going to be fully compatible, or I'm never going to get used to a short telephoto. I think a shorter focal length between 28 and 50 on a full frame camera is going to be my sort of favorite range from here till the end. The light is really dull and not interesting at all. And I think I have enough pictures already, so time to head home and take a closer look at some of these photos and share my impressions on the optical performance of this Brightin Star 50mm f1.4. So here we are at my desk, and here are some thoughts on this Brightin Star 50mm f1.4 APS-C lens. And before I go any further, I'd like to say one more time that the problems I was talking about, or my issues with short telephotos I was talking about in this video, they have nothing to do with this specific lens. It's just that every short telephoto is a little bit difficult for me. Anyway, here are some thoughts on this lens. This is a budget lens. The price is $249, so not very expensive. Sharpness, mid part of the frame, wide open, it's good. Not excellent, but very usable with some reservations. Stop down the mid part of the frame at f2.8, for example, slightly stop down, very sharp. The corners and edges of the frame are slightly more difficult to evaluate because the focus plane is not completely flat, it's slightly curved. Also in this copy, the focus plane is probably not exactly parallel to the sensor. It's slightly, tilted or skewed or whatever. But overall, I would say the sharpness is decent and this lens is good for casual photography, social media photography. I would not use this lens for anything very demanding. But then again, if you have such a shoot, you will not go there with the $249 lens. Chromatic aberrations are visible and slightly distracting, but fortunately they are easy to remove in post. Most post-processing apps have one-click like a feature for that, and I recommend using that feature if you buy this lens. Vignetting and distortions, could not see any, and those are so easy to correct in post that they don't really matter, in my opinion. Backlight can introduce a lower contrast and flare, so you have to watch out if you shoot into the sun or into any bright light source. Autofocus did not have any issues, seems as expected. Not super ultra fast, of course. For this price you can't expect that. By the way, Lightroom says this is BS optics, but this is not that bad. I think this is quite a bit better than BS. Is this lens worth $249? I think it probably is worth it. However, if you don't need f1.4, I recently reviewed this TD Artisan 56mm f1.8, and I think this lens is better value for money. This is only $158, and this is optically better than the Brightin Star. That's all I have for you in this video. Thanks so much for joining in. If you enjoyed this a lot, please do consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below. If you don't live in Finland, thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.